Oh, it has been some time since I've uploaded to this channel, but I am going to start uploading here again now, mainly because I like it. There's a couple of clips from interviews I'm going to put here over the next few days where we talk about God and belief in God. And I've not really explained myself in either of these interviews very well, so I'm just going to briefly do it here. And I'd love to hear your feedback, your opinions on this subject, because I do think it's a fairly critical question when you're talking about philosophy and you're trying to answer the question like, why are we here? What's the purpose of existence? And what you do with God, and is God necessary? So where I would start is I do think at a group level, at a communal level, the notion of God or a supreme being is a good one. And I would largely stand with Dostoevsky and the brothers Karamazov and Nietzsche, both writing in the 1860s. You have the story within the brothers Karamazov of the Grand Inquisitor. You have the first part of the story where he's talking about losing the Russian Orthodox mystic tradition, even though, as Dostoevsky acknowledges, some of them are clowns and they're absolute charlatans, and yet they serve a purpose of connecting the people, the Russian people, to the divine, to the mystical, to the supernatural. I don't know whether they read each other, but then you have Nietzsche within years of the Brothers Karamazov being published, saying the famous quote that's often misunderstood, God is dead. And people think, it's just, they just hear the one quote. Nietzsche said, God is dead, as though it's a celebration, as though this is a good thing. It's not, it's a lament. Nietzsche is saying, it goes on, God is dead and we have killed him. He goes on to say, what festivals and what rituals you're going to have to invent to justify this terrible crime, to wipe the blood from our hands from having killed God. And I think that they're both coming at the same problem from a similar stance, which is, if there is no God, what is there? What is there? And you say, well, there's science, there's technological progress, and there is human advancement without subjugation to some silly idea from, this weird Middle Eastern, Mediterranean religions, the Abrahamic traditions. We don't need them, and they've hurt us as much as helped us. But they both allude to this idea that if there isn't God at the top of everything, then we will end up worshipping ourselves. Other people have made this point that human beings might seem to be, an intrinsically religious species, like in multiple places all across the world throughout history, we've invented religions for ourselves as a way perhaps of coping with reality, as a way for coping with the vicissitudes, the ups and downs, the cruelties of being alive, as a way perhaps of coping with the human dilemma. We're the only animal on the planet that knows with absolute certainty that we will not be one day. The other smartest mammals who even come close to us have no real understanding and cannot really understand that they will be dead, and their parents will be dead, and their children will be dead, and their children's children will be dead, and they will be dead for eternity. They just don't have the IQ to understand that, and we do. And this is awkward for us. Our awareness bumps up against our mortality and creates an almost unbearable friction. It creates a kind of a cognitive dissonance, because the ego, being what it is, on my other channel I talk about narcissism a lot, has this almost infinite gravitational pull, like a black hole, like an infinitely dense singularity that can warp time and space in upon itself. And in a way, A human ego functions like that in that it warps time, space, reality itself into itself. And it's powerful. What stops the excessive dilation of the ego and the excessive dilation of narcissism would be God. So when these interviews come up, I never really get the chance to sort of explain my position fully. I am not saying, oh, well, let's just all go back to church. The toothpaste is out of the tube on that one. Or let's all pretend that we believe in something naively that we're incapable of believing in naively. Like if people say to me, do you believe in God? It's a really difficult question for me to answer, because do I believe in the necessity for God in order for society and culture to move forward? Yes, I think people need that. Do I personally believe in God? Do I believe in an external supreme being that controls everything and punishes and rewards based on our behavior? I can't. I wish I could. I can't get there. I've tried and I just can't do it. So then you have a bit of a problem. This is what Richard Dawkins calls the fundamentally patronizing position, which is that where people like me say, I don't believe in God and I can be good and moral and engage in acts that are pro-social and that are group cohesive without like a fear of God or a desire to be rewarded by God. But other people can't and they need it. And Dawkins says that's a patronizing position. And it might be, but that's the position. That's the position I'm in. So what I wanted to say, and I don't really get a chance to say in these interviews, because the interview, like in one interview, I'm interviewing someone. So I'm not the interviewee. He just asks me if I believe in God. And then the other interview, I'm asked about God. And then you'll see these clips in the next few days. The conversation drifts off. I would want to say that yes, so the short form answer is yes, God is necessary, unless the long form answer would be, unless you can take people and push them so far through science, evolution, biology, chemistry, astrophysics, quantum physics. Not that I understand these things myself, like I have an absolutely superficial understanding. But when I go and I'm a tourist in these areas and I'm like looking around inside of astrophysics, or I'm looking around inside of quantum physics, understanding about 20% of what I'm reading, I am in a state of awe. I'm in a state of awe. And if you can go, okay, we'll do atheism, but we're going to do atheism where we really look at science and we really look at the data, and then we're so full of awe and so full of we're so humbled, we're so full of humility by looking at the nature of reality and looking at the nature of who we are from a scientific lens, that you end up coming back to a godlike state that induces humility, that induces respect for life, that induces awe for the complexity of life. Because as much as I would sit here and say I don't believe in a supreme being naively, I would say it's a bit curious that so much complexity shows up in a repeated and orderly way in this reality. That's a little odd. That's a hard one for me to wrap my head around. There's so much complexity. I'm not saying intelligence, because I think that complicates things, but I would just say there are highly, strangely complex systems at play in order for life to continue, in order for us to all be the wank sock of DNA, and in order for DNA to continue, in order for DNA to exist. It's an enormous amount of complexity. And instead of it just being achieved momentarily, look at all the complexity. Oh shit, we lost it. And then it collapses again. It just stays that way. It doesn't just fall apart in a state of spontaneous entropy. It stays and it repeats and it's stable, repeatable, and predictable. That's weird. Why is it spontaneously doing that? And the other thought I had, I swear to God, I wasn't high, but it was like a high person's thought. I'd done some meditation and some breath work. And I started thinking about Morgan Freeman. And this is a stupid person's idea of quantum physics, okay? So I'm stupid. And I was like, okay, there's Morgan Freeman. And the particles that make up Morgan Freeman are the same as the particles that make up me. And if I walk over to Morgan Freeman and shake his hand, some of my particles go in to make up him, and some of his particles then go in to make up me. And if you take a microscope that can go deep enough, the Lego blocks that make up Morgan Freeman are exactly the same Lego blocks that make up me. And yet at a certain point, as you zoom out and zoom out and zoom out, you end up with Morgan Freeman. And then Morgan Freeman remains Morgan Freeman all the time, every day. So then, is it like Sheldrake's morphogenetic fields? Is there like an archetype for Morgan Freeman in the universe? Why do I keep being me? Why does my hand keep this form? Where's the form held for this hand to be? I said, like, I'm not a quantum physicist. This is a stupid person's approach to quantum physics. But these are interesting questions. And at that point, I would say, no, I don't believe naively in a supreme being, but I am impressed and confused and awe-inspired by the amount of complexity I see around me. So on that level, that's the God side of things, at an individual level for me. And then there's at the group level, yes, I think that there should be God. I think that there should be a religion. Not that we can move backwards, but that maybe there's a way of moving forwards in a way where you say, we can't put, say at the top of the hierarchy of everything, if you imagine it like a pyramid, like an all-seeing eye. I'm not trying to recreate a new religion like they did, when was that? After the French Revolution, you know, the eye of providence and it's pure reason and pure science. I don't think you can do that. But what I think you can do is you can say at the top of everything shouldn't be you. It shouldn't be me. It shouldn't be humanity. If it's not God, it's at least mystery. It's at least mystery. And then we can always, in all of our arguments, in all of our politics, in all of our stressing and straining and battling for power, which is an awful lot of what politics and everything else that we see going on in the world is, they're really just power battles. Either a person is trying to become more powerful or a nation is trying to grow in power, and that's it. Beyond all that, none of us really know what this is. And I had another little moment yesterday, I swear to God I wasn't high, where I was driving back through a town that I used to work in. I used to be a taxi driver there. It's not a high income town in Merseyside. It's called New Ferry. And I was looking at where my old taxi rank was. It still says VR taxis on the wall. It's opposite the old post office, if any of you know New Ferry. And I saw a guy with a nice camera taking pictures of all of this. And I was thinking, for the life of me, I cannot imagine why anybody would want pictures of New Ferry. And then I thought, is that what we are? Are we some sort of like recording device? Because you wake up, you all sleep, I sleep, we wake up and we're in this reality. And there's something fundamentally passive about our relationship with this reality. Like if somebody comes along and says, I know with certainty that because of this book and this prophet written in this language 3,000 years ago, I know the truth. And I'm like, brother, you cannot. You don't. How can you? That's faith, and a faith that is kind of akin to madness. How can you know? How can you know? Tell me of your religion. And they tell me, this is the hat we wear. These are the robes. This is the language. Our sacred language is Hebrew. Ours is Latin. Ours is Aramaic. Ours is Arabic. On Saturdays, we do this. Well, for us, it's Fridays. Well, for us, it's Sundays. We call God this. Well, we call God that. Well, we call God this. And if you didn't have parents and schools and teachers to show you all that, and you weren't born in the country you were born in, the time you were born in, would you have spontaneously come to these truths of your own accord? No. You would wear a different hat, and there would be a different special day, and there would be a different prayer ritual. These things are given to you. So they're not revealed truth, they're received truths. Truths. They're dogma. And I respect people following their religions. I think it's great. I would more happily live amongst Orthodox Christians, Orthodox Jews. I've lived with Orthodox Muslims, as long as they don't mind me not doing what they're doing. There is more cohesion. It does work. But we cannot, any of us, claim to know what's going on behind the curtain, because we're really all just members of the audience. We might get peeps, we might get clues, but none of us really know. And I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but I think I'm trying to say something like, that should be the baseline state at which everybody starts from. I don't know. Because certainty is a kind of ideological poison that creates an awful lot of destructivity. And in humility and in awe, you should just have the permission to say, I really don't know. I'm in the seat next to you. I'm not above you. I'm not beyond you. I'm just sat here looking at this stuff going, wow, this is crazy. What is this? So that's the long-winded, rambly, post-acid flashback answer to these questions. I hope that was useful, and I would like to hear what you think in the comments below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.